Hello and welcome to Community Super League. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm going to be pinch hitting on commentary this week. We've got Marshall and Kenji getting ready for the Magic Online Championships, which you can watch on this channel starting tomorrow. So no commentary from them, but I did get permission to let them play their Community Super League matches. So just imagine the whole Mox commentary team trash talking them over their shoulder the whole time. It's about right. I'm joined for pregame and for round one by Gaby Sparks. Welcome, Gaby. How are things?
I'm good. Thank you, Randy. I'm excited for Tribal Wars. Should be fun.
This format, you guys have done crazy things with it. It's one of these for like, I've been the guy trying to help put the formats together behind the scenes and set it up. It's like, all right, do we sort of force them to draft this? Do we set it up? I like it. I think of it as almost like a reality TV show where like I never know what the narrative's actually going to be. Like we do our best to set it up. Okay, the formats are fair and interesting, hopefully. And then like, what's the content going to be? What's the narrative going to be? Got it. You guys have all drafted nonsense. Excellent.
It was funny because I was the second to last person to pick, and I really had no idea which direction people were going to take it. But I think, like, pack one, pick one was Scarecrow.
Kenji definitely set the tone with the Scarecrow pick. It's true.
Yeah, so as soon as that started happening, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to really think about hard about what I want to pick for this.
Yeah, it is kind of a mix. I mean, I know some people were given the professor grief for playing Merfolk. It's like, that's kind of what we thought everybody was going to play. And I mean, the man's favorite deck of all time is Merfolk. Let him play as Merfolk and have fun, right?
I think playing Merfolk is fine. I mean...
I do too.
I haven't seen all the deck lists, of course. I've only seen the ones that we're going to do commentary for. But just even based on the names, like, I think the level of competition between the decks is going to be pretty varied. I think some decks are pretty nonsense, and some decks might be able to put on a serious clock. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the scale, I don't know if the Professor's Merfolk deck is the best deck in the field, but I mean, it's a real deck. Right. All the way up to, like, Marshall's playing Elk. Like, there aren't even 10 Elk in Standard. We're like, all right, look, Marshall, it's fine. You could play all the Elvers you want. Just have pictures of Elk in Standard.
Yeah.
So yeah, today's format is Tribal Wars. You can actually look at, if you just type format, you can see the format video. We'll show that to you a little bit later as well. All the rules are over on the new website. We do have communitysuperleague.com set up as a central place for all the information you guys want to see. Let's take stock of where we are as a league, though. It's week 3 now. We've actually kind of got standings that start to make sense here. And you can see the way we're thinking about this, there's just 2 sets of standings, and they don't directly interact with each other. There's the Brewmaster points and the match wins. You know, maybe you want to win, maybe you want to impress people, maybe you want to do a little bit of both, which you seem to be doing a great job of, Gaby.
Thank you.
Yeah, the 2-0, and you got the runner-up spot in our inaugural Brewmaster vote last week.
Triskaidekaphobia.
Yeah, the Hats deck was hard to beat.
Yes, it was. I was not going to be the Hats deck. No one was going to be the Hats deck. That's the thing. That's the thing. Hats deck was really good. Hats deck could have been a tribe, honestly.
It could. They're humans. They could have just run it back. I was half surprised they didn't just, like, re-up. I guess they lose points for creativity with that.
Yeah, look at Paul. He actually snuck in 1 point. Very cool.
No, so I looked at that. His vote was crazy. So Paul played Miracles, and there were 7 options on the vote. Like if you like A+, A minus, etc. He managed to get over 10% of the vote on all 7 options. That's crazy. Like
that's pretty crazy.
And that's
what actually puts him at 1.
So, you know, he got over 10% of the people gave him an A+, and also over 10% of the people gave him a D. But yeah, it averaged out to a little bit better, you know, almost middle of the pack, slightly below middle of the pack. The bottom 3 spots don't get points. But yeah, those are the standings for now, starting to take shape. We will have a Brewmaster vote going on today as well, as sort of as each match is played. I'll update the website. You can go in, you can look at the deck list, you can decide who deserves the Brewmaster points this week. I'm actually really curious to see, because like the Tribal Wars format is so wide open. Like, do people want to see iconic tribes? Do people want to see crazy combos? Do people want to see, I don't know, boy and girl scouts? In your case, scouts is what you wound up going with.
Yeah, scouts is what I ended up
behind that you want to tell?
Basically, I was going so. I wanted to go with something unique, and I thought people would expect me to bring snakes, and I didn't want to do that. And so then I was going through every creature type in Standard just on Gather, like scrolling through pages and pages and pages and pages of creatures. And I was looking at fish, not merfolk, like actual fish.
Fish, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
fish, just actual fish. And after bounding crazes, all the fish in standard go like way, way down. There's like ancient, what's it called? Ancient, the 2-5?
Oh God.
I don't even know. It's a
Sure.
2-5, it's a fish. He's not good. He costs like ancient carp. That's what it is. He's
Oh
not
God,
good.
the carp, of course.
And then I was trying to see if there was any way that I could get a creature that maybe there was like one of in standard and then try to make a deck out of it. So I was looking at really obscure creature types and I found that there's like 2 oysters in the history of Magic or something like that.
Fungus
So-
was my favorite obscure. There's only 2 fungus in standard, but you got
Yeah,
plenty
yeah,
of them in
yeah.
the history of Magic. You could almost make that one work.
Yeah, because you have like what, Mulgraf Scavenger and like there's something else.
Yeah, there's the 2-man, the guy that
Rod
sacrificed.
Shambler.
Yeah, Ross Shambler.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, that
Sacrifice-
guy.
like, he actually goes in the deck, right? He's just eating all
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. No, he
balance.
actually fits in the deck just fine.
Exactly.
That's funny. So yeah, I was trying to find something really obscure and then didn't really find anything. And then the 2 that I ended up like coming down to at the end were it was Artificer and Scout because I thought they were both pretty different and not like a typical tribe that you think of. Like you think of elves, you think of goblins, you think of merfolk. Those are tribes, right? But you don't really think like, oh yeah, the Artificers are over here doing
Right.
their yeah. So I ended up with Scouts because there's a lot of Scouts in Magic that do cool. You know, they enter the battlefield, get a land out of your deck, and then like leave a body behind. Like it's not really a significant body, just a 1/1. So I thought it would be cool to put something together with that. So it's kind of like a rampish sort of deck, and there's a lot of exploring and stuff a la Scout flavor.
Nice. Gaby, you pulled off the combo last week of having something that was very sort of flavorful, obviously second in the Brewmaster points, but still functioned pretty well as a beatdown deck too. Have you actually managed to hit both of those notes again?
I hope so. I think the deck is fun. Yeah, I was goldfishing it earlier on stream, and people seem to enjoy it. So we'll see.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Yeah, it's also interesting to me in those Brewmaster standings to see what people actually choose to care about. Like, it's not just a pure flavor vote. Obviously, it's it's sweetness, it's awesomeness. Like Kenji's Dirtle Surge deck, I thought was spectacular, but it's
it was awesome.
There's no flavor there, but it's mechanically super, super interesting.
Right. That's actually an interesting question, Randy. Like when people are looking at these decks at home and they're looking at Brewmaster standings, like what do you think are the things that they should be thinking about? Is it just flavor? Is it mechanics? Is it how does it play out? How much does it matter that it won? Like, how would you rank those?
For me, the word I keep falling back on is sweet. Like, to me, overall awesomeness. Like for me, it's not specifically about flavor. It's not specifically about power level. It's not specifically about, insider references, but it could be about any of those.
Yeah.
Like yours was very flavorful, I would say. Kenji's, I thought, was mechanically super amazing.
Right.
And then you get like the hacks deck, which, I mean, depends how you define flavor, but like for me, it's show me something cool, sweet, awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely more generic than just flavor for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're actually we have planned a specific flavor week, maybe perhaps even with a guest judge later on in the Community Super League, where it will be tell me a flavorful story.
Yeah.
But for me, Brewmaster's bigger than that. It's definitely.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, no, it's interesting because I'm not sure that there is no general consensus as to what's really being graded here. So it's interesting to kind of like set the tone for what maybe people should be thinking about when they're looking at Brewmaster and like how they should vote that. I see it in the same way as you, right? Because it's not, like Kenji's deck, there wasn't like a theme to it, not really. It was just
Sweet,
a cool,
though.
really cool combo. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and for me, a lot of that is like, I don't want to say exactly what it is. I kind of want it to be left up to the eye of the beholder. Yeah. It's just like, well, I don't want to say, well, it's Tribal Wars, so obviously you guys have to play goblins and merfolk and elves and stuff. Like, you could have gone that way, but I'd rather just, we have so many creative people in this league. I love just turning you guys loose and seeing what you come up with. Like, for me, I think this is exactly what the Community Super League should be.
Like Elks and Scarecrows? Yeah.
Well,
I'm really looking forward to seeing this next time. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I would have said it's all about, the best content creators in the game turning loose their creative sides.
Sure.
That's the sappy version of it, I suppose.
Yeah. I will say that I think the flavor week is probably the week that I'm most looking forward to.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait to see what people come up for that.
Yeah, that is going to be sweet.
Yeah.
We should look at the schedule for tonight.
Sure.
We've been talking about who's playing what. I think all the tribes kind of speak for themselves here. You see the schedule, and the deck names are on point this week, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. These are some. I love Marshall's deck name. It's Raining Elk. Come on, that's so good.
It's very good. I mean, look, the Cheon pun worked for me.
Just how we drew it up.
Absolutely. You got all dogs going to heaven. Yeah, definitely.
It's funny that MTA picked hounds because hounds was one of the tribes that I was considering, and I wanted to call it who released the hounds or
Sure.
who let the dogs out. But all dogs go to heaven is really good too.
So they drafted right before you, right?
Yeah, they went right before me. But honestly, I wasn't gonna end up in hounds. I think once I was when I was picking between artificers and scouts, I was just off hounds at that point.
Fair enough.
I like Little Shop of Horrors is pretty flavorful, and
Yeah.
the Nom Nom Nightmares is also on point given the contents of Wedge's deck, which we'll be able to see in a little bit.
Yeah, how do we have horrors versus nightmares is kind of hilarious. It's not even our Gothic Horror Innistrad Plane Constructed week. It just kind of lined up that way anyway.
It's a too spooky match.
So that'll be the schedule for tonight. I did want to mention next week's format real quick. Next week's format is going to be Brewers Challenge. So everybody's going to get one standard card that they have to build their deck around. Mm-hmm. And I've been collecting nominations on Twitter all week. Thank you for everybody who gave me a card. And what I did was I essentially I just counted up. There were like 100 different cards that got nominated at least once. I took anything that had 3 or more nominations and then threw out a couple cards that I think were really particularly good fits. Mm-hmm. But there's a vote going on right now. If you just do !vote in the chat, or if you go to communitysuperleague.com, you can vote on which of those cards, make the final cuts for me. We got to whittle it down to 10. These guys are going to have to tomorrow, basically, decide in order which cards there are going to be. I don't know which cards. I don't know if it's which cards get to brew around or which cards
are they going to be drafted? Are the cards going to be drafted? Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah. Whoever's in last place gets first pick.
Gotcha.
All the way up to you probably at 2-0 you're gonna get one of the last couple. I do not expect you to have a lot of choices. We'll see. See if you can hold on to first or.
We'll see. We'll try. Feeling good about scouts, sort of. We are on theme with hunting nature and things like. I guess scouts don't really hunt elk, but I guess tonight they will.
Yours do.
It's true.
Yeah, the pairing against the elk deck. Probably a pretty good pairing if you decide you care about wins and losses.
Yeah, I would say so. It was funny because I was talking about it with Marshall yesterday. He's just like, "Which tribe are you? Are you scouts?" I was like, "He's like, yeah, I think the elk get hunted."
We shall see. We've got a format video that can actually let you guys know what's going on for this week's Tribal Wars, and then we can start to talk about the decks we are going to be seeing in round number 1. So. If it's ready, we do have the usual Elantris-inspired introduction to the format.
Welcome to Week 3 of the Community Super League. This week, our players are taking on Tribal Wars, with a bit of a twist. Tribal Wars is a casual, constructed Magic the Gathering format that emphasizes creature combat and tribal themes. 1/3 of every deck must be of a single creature type, and 10 of the creature cards must be legal and standard. Sideboards are not permitted. We are using the regular Legacy ban list, along with any cards that hose an entire tribe. Think Engineered Plague. If you are interested, you can find the full ban list in the description below. Players were given free reign to draft their favorite tribe. Draft order was the inverse of the current standings, so last place got to choose first. A bit of leeway was given to Marshall, who insisted on elks, despite there being only one elk card currently legal and standard. We hope you enjoyed this week of goofy fun. Remember, during and after the show, you can vote for your favorite decks at communitysuperleague.com.
Gotta love Marshall with a giant banana, right?
Yes, it's really good.
An inspired choice. So first up, we have Wedge versus the Girlfriend bracket, and it is horrors versus nightmares. We should take a look at one of these deck lists. Wedge's deck, you see it's 16 creatures there. It's actually, and if you just watch the format video, it's got to be 1/3 creatures that share a type. I was asked to make a ruling. You see under sorceries, Startled Awake is a double-face card. The reverse side of Startled Awake is, in fact, a nightmare.
Oh, so we're counting it as a nightmare here?
We are counting it as a nightmare. It's actually the only way the Nightmare Tribe can be legal and standard. That is
really?
The third nightmare. He's 4/4/2.
So it's the Stallion, the Nightmare, and the flip side of
It's Stallion of Ashenmouth, yeah. The flip side of Startled Awake, and then 2 copies of Nightmare itself. That's it. Wow. That's all you get for standard. But the deck here is kind of interesting. It is not exactly a tribal beatdown deck. This is a combo deck. This is actually World Gorger Dragon combo, which, if you're a fan of Super Leagues, you may have actually seen a very similar combo in Vintage Super League earlier this week. You see he's got Animate Dead and Dance of the Dead, and the idea is that if I use an enchantment to bring World Gorger Dragon back from the graveyard, well, World Gorger Dragon says when it comes into play, all of your other permanents leave play. That includes the Animate Dead or the Dance of the Dead. Well, but when that leaves play, your World Gorger Dragon dies. So all your stuff comes back, including the enchantment, which can get World Gorger Dragon out. It is a literally infinite loop where the World Gorger Dragon is just going to keep coming into play and leaving play, and all of your permanents flicker. So the kill here, the idea is that either he has Piranha Marsh in play, which is a land that says when it comes into play, your opponent loses a life, and every time through the loop, it flickers in and out of play again, so your opponent just dies on the spot. Or he has to have Altar of the Brood in play, which says whenever permanent comes into play, the opponent gets milled for 1. So he's either going to deck him with Altar of the Brood or straight up kill him with Piranha Marsh. Hilariously, there is one other way to kill with this deck in the Infinite Loop combo. I kind of want to leave this as an exercise for the reader for a sec and come up for air. I don't know if you have any experience with these sorts of World Gorger Dragon combo kill decks, Gabby.
So I don't have experience myself with the combo. I actually did a lot of talking to a number of people when I saw the deck to make sure that I understood what was actually going on here. And yeah, there's like a couple of wild things going on. But yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, and it's with one of the creatures, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you think about when you keep flickering all your permanents in play, your lands always show up untapped. So the combo actually generates infinite mana. You just tap your land every time through the loop, and suddenly you have infinite mana. And like the vintage version of this deck will just have some creature like, Scion of Una that you can sink infinite mana into for the kill. This deck doesn't have a way to give it haste, but Stallion of Ashmouth can become infinitely large if you happen to only have one in play to attack with.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting because if he does that after the Stallion of Ashmouth has been in play, at some point he might be able to get in with a giant Stallion of Ashmouth. So that'll be a pretty flavorful kill from here from Nightmares.
I think he gets bonus points if he kills that way. Yes, if he actually
that would be very cool. That would be the biggest Stallion of Ashmouth anyone has probably ever seen.
Oh, for sure.
How good is this deck at turning on Delirium? I guess Startled Awake is pretty good at doing that.
Right.
Yeah, you need to turn on Delirium before you do any of this.
I mean, the weird part with the deck is like the Nightmares are so accidental, right? They're just kind of, oh, by the way, I have Mesmeric Fiend and Faceless Butcher, and like Startled Awake can enable the combo by milling the World Gorger Dragon into the graveyard, but I don't know. This is the one I'm sort of most curious to see what our audience thinks of it. Is this like super sweet and innovative, or is this it's not really a Tribal Wars deck?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because it's not the usual take on World Gorger Dragon sort of deck, but right. It's also that's the thing too, right? It doesn't have the same kill conditions as a World Gorger Dragon deck would, so it'll be interesting to see how he actually tries to finish out the game, especially versus the matchup, right? Can we pull up the Girlfriend Brackets deck?
Yes. Little Shop of Horrors. This deck is a little more straightforward, but still super sweet. It's self-milling in the form of, Armored Scob and Screeching Scob. It's got a bunch of the Scobs that can come back from the graveyard directly into play, bringing, of course, Prized Amalgam along with them. What do you think of this deck?
Yeah, no, this is cool. This is what I imagine like a kind of a more commander-ish zombie deck in EDH to look like, All the zombies have pretty good synergy with each other, get stuff in your graveyard, a lot of cards that you can cast from your graveyard. Once you get them in there, or for cheaper once you have other creatures in your graveyard, and then using things like Corpse Swift to get a little bit of incremental advantage here and there.
Yeah, I was almost surprised there's not more than one Corpse Swift. I don't know. Is that
seems quite good in this deck?
Is that feed me? I will also say I love the dedication of Horribly Awry and Horrifying Revelation. Like that, those are bonus points in my mind when I'm looking at a brew. They went the extra distance. If you search for cards with horror in the name and gather it, there really aren't very many, and they found a couple that totally just plug into the deck.
Oh, I love the special touch of horrifying revelation and horribly right here. Those are clearly included just because this is called the Little Shop of Horrors, and not necessarily because it's the best card in the deck, but in terms of flavor, you gotta give them points for that. That's pretty sweet.
Totally agree. Props for that. All right, it sounds like our players are ready. Let's get down to the first round of Week 3 of the Community Super League.